With less than a month to go for the maiden Indian F1 Grand Prix, F1 fever is certainly spreading fast. Vodafone, titled sponsors of the McLaren F1 team, had arranged for Indian fans to get a taste of F1 up close. On a cordoned-off stretch of Bangalore's nice highway, McLaren's 2008 championship-winning car, the McLaren MP423, was to be driven. And doing the driving would be none other than the 2008 world champion, Lewis Hamilton. The stands were packed with more than 20,000 spectators, and there were more that found unofficial seats for the spectacle. Finally, the time came, and that was to hear the F1 car. The sound of the V8 revving to over 12,000 RPM, yes 12, because surely it wouldn't be going flat out. But once Lewis brought it out on track, nobody was quite sure. The sound of the V8, the smell of the burning rubber transported the spectators to automotive heaven. Lewis pulled out all the stops, doing spins and donuts again and again. And with his work done, it was our chance to catch up with Lewis and get to know him better. And despite being a driving prodigy, Lewis's first car didn't come to him all that easy.
My first car, I had saved up some money to buy a car out of a magazine. It was an old, out of a newspaper. It was an old car. It was a Corsa, a Vauxhall Corsa. And I'd gone to purchase it, and as I was purchasing it, my dad gave me a call and says, "Don't get it." He says, "I want you to be much safer." And I said, "Well, what car can I get?" And he says, "Don't worry." He says, "We'll look for something else." So then another couple of months passed, and then I still didn't have a car, and one day he surprised me. I had a Mini, and that was my first car. It was very, very, very fortunate. I never thought I'd have that. It was such a cool car. The sound system was good, you know. Picked up plenty of girls in it, and it was cool.
But what's Lewis driving now?
I just received a new McLaren, so I have the new McLaren at home. Yeah, 12C is waiting for me at home, so...
You haven't driven it yet?
No, I'm excited to get home, and it has no miles on it. I don't drive my cars in the rain, generally.
Lewis sounds like he's got a bit of Parsi blood in him. But he can't complain because he gets to drive on some of the best tracks in the world. We asked him which were his favorites.
I love Spa, Monaco. Monaco is really beautiful to drive, you know. It's around the streets, it's dangerous, there's no runoff areas. You wouldn't believe how crazy that is. You think the street that we have out there, think of that half the size, it's a bit narrower in Monaco, and metal barriers. And we do 200 miles an hour through the streets, and it's bumpy as hell, it's ups and downs, it's a really, really special place.
We were also itching to know what Lewis thought of the team and his progress in 2011.
The car has improved through the year. It started off well, and then it dropped, then it came back, and it dropped, and it came back. So it's been like that through the year, and the same thing has been with my driving. Really, it's started okay, and then it's got worse. It's been a disaster, yeah. But
but now Lewis can look forward to some new challenges and to make up for things. So how is he preparing for the Indian Grand Prix?
Seen some pictures. We've not done any simulations yet, but I think it's going to be really, really fantastic there. As a driver, you learn it in half an hour. It's not a problem. 13 laps of the track and I'll know it. And of course you do continue to get better, but generally by the time I've done 13 laps I will know it like the back of my hand. I would do one lap, the next lap I'll know where all the corners go, and then after that it's really trying to figure out the braking points and the turning points. And also the track gets better and better. But then also because of the conditions here, it's going to be very hot probably, so I'll do some extra training before that and plenty of time in the sauna, just to try and make sure that my heart's ready for it.
Well, it's not too long before the action starts off in earnest at the Indian GP on the 30th of October. And Indian F1 fans will surely be there in full force to welcome F1 to India. Now it's been about 2 years since Royal Enfield launched their classic range of motorcycles here in India, and in that time this motorcycle has gone on to become a massive hit with the Indian motorcyclist. So much so that the order books have just not reduced. I mean, the demand has increased and the waiting period for the motorcycles is big even today. Despite that, Royal Enfield has decided to hot things up even further by launching 2 new variants of the classic. Like with the Classic 500, Royal Enfield started exporting 2 special variants of the Classic to Europe. One is the battle green color that sadly cannot be sold to civilians in the Indian market. So we get this, the Desert Storm. It has been painted a sandy brown color, and the best part is the matte finish. The final result is absolutely spectacular. The second variant on hand is the Classic Chrome. A lot of effort goes into getting the chrome finish just right, because any imperfections in the almost mirror-like surface become very apparent. In true RE heritage, the pinstriping on the bikes is still done by hand. Everything else on the bikes remains as before. My pick of these 2, I'd go with this. Now this paint scheme is called Desert Storm, and it I think looks absolutely gorgeous. It's head turning, not too loud, extremely attractive according to me, and I'm sure it'll find a fair share of fans, as will the chrome finish for the Classic. RE has been making a lot of noise at the same time about fit finish being improved, NVH and all that, but I have to say first off, fit finish does feel better than the previous Classics we've ridden, but this is still far from perfect. When it comes to performance, RE has made some tweaks to the engine, to the ECU, and some tweaks on the dynamics front as well. We're going to hit the road to see what difference those have made. On the engine front, RE claims that engine refinement and longevity have improved because of better tolerances. However, we couldn't feel any significant difference in terms of refinement. Now the 2 new variants come with a recalibrated ECU, the results of which were apparent. The Classic felt distinctly more tractable at the lower end of the rev range, while power delivery doesn't trail off at higher RPMs either. So the Classic will feel better to ride around in the city and more peppy even out on the highway. To improve dynamics, some tweaks have been made to the suspension as well. The wheel axis is now in line with the fork, while earlier it was offset. This has reduced trail. There's also a change in steering geometry with increased rake for added stability. That aside, the 19-inch front wheel and a new wider 120 by 80 18-inch rear improve stability further. Now the change in suspension setting has made the Classic feel much less nervous as compared to the earlier version. It feels more calm in case of an emergency change of direction or when slamming the brakes. However, the suspension still doesn't feel all that compliant over choppy roads. There's still a fair amount of bobbing motion. With the evaluation done, I headed out to have some fun. A dry riverbed provided the perfect avenue to let the Classic's 4.2 kilograms of torque loose. That's the fun of a bullet. You can punish it and it'll pull right through. Now the tweaks to the ECU, they resulted in better rideability because it has more linear power delivery, so it rides better at lower RPM and it has a bit more punch even at the top. In stability terms, it feels more steady when you're braking hard, while here it used to have a slight jacking feeling to it, so it feels more steady now. That aside, I think the biggest draw, of course, of the Classic is its appeal. Priced at 1.58 lakh rupees, the Desert Storm is 3,000 rupees more expensive than the stock Classic 500, while the Chrome variant is priced 10,000 rupees higher, which is at 1.65 lakh rupees. Which still means it will be an attractive package. However, to be really a true blue cruiser here for the Indian highways, Royal Enfield are going to have to work towards making this bike lighter, towards making the suspension more comfortable, more relaxed out on the highway. Even the engine needs to be tuned so that it really does cruise down Indian highways rather than, just chug along. As before, the Classic still makes 27.2 bhp of power. However, it does come with a recalibrated ECU, the results of which were quite apparent. But the biggest problem for bullet lovers today is the long wait before they actually get their bike. Here's what Royal Enfield had to say.
So last year we were doing around 4,500 bikes in a month. This year we are up to around 6,500, pushing 7,000 now bikes a month. Yet our demand is continuing to grow, which is a great thing. So we're delighted about that. But the problem, of course, is for the customers.
We feel very bad about these long waiting periods. There's no reason anybody who's making a generally emotional decision has to wait that long. So we're pulling out all the stops. I think using all our creativity to get as much capacity out of Tiruvallur as possible. And of course, very, very precisely executing the construction of the new plant so that it doesn't meet a beat, and we're up and running in 5 quarters.
So while the waiting period for Royal Enfield motorcycles will come down slightly in the months to come, a big change will only come about from 2030.